are going to talk about glucose as the fifth vital sign. Now, what is a vital sign? A vital sign is a clinical measurement which actually gives us the state and of the clinical state of the vital functioning of our organs. Till now, we have temperature, pulse, respiratory rate, and blood pressure as being vital signs. Today, we are going to discuss whether glucose can be a vital sign in our management. And we have none other than Dr. V. Mohan here to discuss this very important topic. Dr. V. Mohan is the chief diabetologist of the Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Care Center, which has got 52 centers across 9 states in India. He's also the chief and president of the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation, which is the most premier research foundation in the field of diabetes in Asia. So, Doctor, welcome. So, when we have hyperglycemia in hospital, there are multiple factors which actually govern that hyperglycemia. Many a time we do a point of care checking at one particular time, but we don't know what is the patient's variability in terms of food. Sometimes procedures are delayed, sometimes an event may occur. So many things can occur, sir. So do you think that that point of care that is done, maybe sometimes we do it 6 times a day, 7 times a day, but the intervening period, is there a need that we need to find out what the blood sugar would be of these patients?
See, let us say we are measuring it 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day. Beyond that, how can we keep on poking the patient? And today, we don't have a technology whereby every hour automatically you will get it or something outside of continuous glucose monitoring. So the point of care, and it's also painful and it's expensive, and I don't know how accurate it will be in certain situations. And beyond all that, what you're getting with the, of course, it's better than nothing, but and for testing it at fixed times is probably okay. We want to check before giving some food in the hospital, what is the before food sugar, morning, afternoon, night. You may get 3 readings, but let me give you 3 points. Let's say you've got 120 before breakfast, and the next one you're doing is before lunch and comes as 160 or something, and then before dinner to say 140 or something. So you got 3 points now: 120, 160, 140. You got 3 points now. Now, what happened in between? Did it go to 300 and then come down, after some procedure or some medicine given or a steroid given or something? Did it go up at all? Or in between, due to some insulin working, the sugar went down to 50, 60 and then came back. And at that point when you are testing, it is actually 140. And in between, it went very low. We don't have a clue. So if you say, join these dots, it's like joining the dots in this game that we play, join the dots. So you can join it like that. You can join it like that. You can join it. There's a million ways you can join it. But there's only one true thing which actually happened. Out of those million possibilities, only one true thing happened where the sugar went in a particular way and then went and then reached that particular point. So that is where I think continuous glucose monitoring today has become almost the state of the art. And by using continuous glucose monitoring, what you're getting is like a video of the whole thing. They immediately say, better put a holter. I want to see how many times 24 hours it occurred. Based on that, I'll decide whether to treat. And if some heart block is coming, I may put you on a pacemaker. The whole treatment changes based on that. So I think we as diabetologists and endocrinologists should now adopt that technology and say, this glucose is very important. It's as important to determine the prognosis as anything else. And therefore, we should also get on to continuous glucose monitoring.
Thank you, sir. So what sir has been saying is that from probably the most important person in diabetes in India today, that all of us need to adopt technology, and world is becoming flat. So on that basis, so there this diabetes care article which actually compared real-time CGM versus point of care users, and you had better time in range and better mean blood glucose, and these were in non-ICU patients and not actually in ICU beds. Secondly, even in the US, the CGMS has not got an indication for hospital care. So even those where the help of real-time CGM with the help of Bluetooth, it was given to a central iPad, and then instructions were given to the nurses. They still had to go and do a point of care blood glucose checkup just to confirm whether it was done. So do you think this is really a hypothesis generating study, and in future it would be the mainstay of treatment, where patients in hospital would be on a real-time CGM with a smartphone and connected to a central port, and one would just sit and view the glycemic variability of patients as we have a central monitor in the ICU. Do you think this will become a reality?
I think it's a game changer. Definitely, I've read that article where he says it's a fifth vital sign,
Mhm.
and I couldn't agree more. And this actually shot into, see, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and in this case, a necessity was COVID-19, and they were not, brave enough to go near a patient with COVID and actually do the blood sugar. And if somebody's got COVID, even the healthcare professionals are scared to go there. So, although it was not approved, as a temporary basis, because they had to do it, they started using CGM, saying this is the only way. We'll connect them to Bluetooth and then stand at the foot end of the thing, so many feet away, and watch the sugars going there. When they started doing that, I remember that we had calls with Dr. Umperes and others during one of the calls, and he said, for the first time, we are doing this sometime in March or April. He said, for the first time, I'm doing it. I said, you know what? We are already been doing this. Now, at that time, we didn't have, see, we got Libre only very recently. The real time started only recently, only in October and November we got it. But we had the Pro. So what we used to do with the Pro was, you don't get it like that anytime unless you scan it. So the protocol I have followed for the last 4 to 5 years, I would say we are far ahead of, or at least in time, than what US or this. But we have not published a paper on it. As I published several other papers on Libre Pro, but not this particular one. For me, it is standard of care. So what happened was, when a patient gets admitted, for the last, say, from 2015-16 onwards, a patient gets admitted to my hospital. Now, he's either getting admitted for a tight control because of a foot infection, or he's going for a surgery, cataract surgery, or he is going to get into ICU, or he's going to get into some kind of situation where there is a sense of urgency. We need about 3-4 days observation, and throughout the day we need the observation. So what we used to do was, we used to stick this patch on this patient. The moment he gets into the bed, the
Mhm.
first thing after the signature, the thing is done and the address is written and so on, patient has gone and got admitted. Temperature is checked, like the vital sign. Blood pressure is checked. The temperature is checked. Pulse is checked, and then this thing is put on. The sensor is put on. So we already
Mhm.
accepted it as a standard of care, as a fifth vital sign. Otherwise, why should we do it as along with everything else? Even the case sheet is not written. Before
Oh,
that,
okay.
this is put already.
Oh, nice,
Okay,
nice.
and so we put that, and then we start. Then we start the scanning. Then every 2 or 3 hours we are scanning it, because you can scan it any number of times and you'll get the
True.
graph up to then. So suppose the patient is admitted in the morning at, say, 7 o'clock, and I am going for rounds, let's say at 10:30. Just before I come in, they would have taken the graph and they'll say, this is the graph of the patient as it is now. Then I'll say, all right, we'll adjust based on this. And by the time I come in the evening for rounds by 5:36, 15 minutes before that, you take the next reading and keep it. So by the time I come in the evening, the next graph is taken. So I know from the time he got admitted how the graph has been behaving. I also know how sensitive the patient is. I know how much we have given a certain shot of insulin. The first insulin shot is always arbitrary. Whatever you calculate, so many 0.1 unit per kilogram body, whatever you calculate, it's always arbitrary because biology is variable. So we know whether the patient is resistant or not. So we put that, and then by evening we know that, oh, nothing has happened. Then we know this patient's dose has to be increased. So we increase the dose, and then by the next morning, by the time I come for rounds, they would have scanned it a couple of times. So when I go in the morning, I have my next graph with me. So I know how it is. So I've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. So when Dr. Impress was telling me, I said, you know what? I've been doing this for Guillermo. I've been doing this for last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you so much for that absolute insight into what you have done and what could be a standard of care in the future. Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank you so
sharing your
much.
experience. Thank you very much for
And
being
keep
with
up
us.
this nice session that you're doing, bringing the latest news into people. People don't read all the journals. It's impossible
True,
today with
sir.
all the distractions that we have on our time. So it's a great service you're doing, and to take up one topic and to discuss it in great detail is also thing, especially with whatever is cutting edge.
True,
These are
sir.
really
True, sir.
cutting edge. As far as US is concerned, this is cutting edge. So
Absolutely.
therefore, I think it's very important to do that. I'd like to thank Mankind Pharma for this.
Added to your clinical armamentarium, and you have something to take back home and invest in your practice. So as sir said, that glucose can be a fifth vital sign. CGM in hospital setting could be not of very far in future, but as you said, in the next 3 or 6 months, we may be using it, and we may be using it to make sure that the patients have better outcomes. They do not suffer hypo and hyper, and the glycemic variability is much lower when they are hospitalized. We will see you back next month with some added news, some newer features, and some latest news from the metabolic space. Thank you so much for being with us.